What's going on, and welcome back to another episode of Redefining Issued Equipment. And in this episode, we're going to be going over the setup and configuration of the TAPS system in the event you find yourself in a position or a unit that requires you to utilize this system. Now, I know that there are some organizations out there that have standards or SOPs or policies that say that you need to set this up in a certain way, but they don't necessarily address the mission set and or the duty position that you're going to be falling in on. So I do want to address that. I will put a link in the video description of an example of that, so that way you can see what that looks like and how it doesn't address that mission set or duty position that you'll fall in on. So then that way you can take what you're seeing here in this video and address that and be able to articulate why you need to be able to set up your kit a certain way based off of what mission set you're going to fall in on, as well as your duty position that you're going to fall in on. And there's a few things that I'll address throughout the video when it comes to the differences in the two videos, but then at the same time I'll also interject a few things when it comes to different duty positions and how this configuration can be set up for more than just one duty position, and how it is set up in a way that will address multiple positions right off the bat. So with that said, I'll talk mission sets real quick and then I'll get into the duty position part. But before I get into that, the entire outline of this kit is going to address being able to shoot, move, communicate, and then medicate, and then talk the part of mission specific equipment or equipment that you may want to have as kind of special equipment. So I'll use that outline throughout the entire thing, so as you follow along you'll be able to see how that all comes together. So starting with mission set though, I have this configured to where you can use this with both body armor and without body armor. So when you're looking at a more full mission profile with body armor and you're addressing ambushes, raids, patrols, base defense, and urban operations, you have the ability to utilize this setup with body armor to address that type of mission and or that type of environment, as well as when you start looking at operational environments like maneuver operations or land operations, and then you're starting to look at air operations and then also maritime operations. You'll kind of see how that pendulum swings across the board. So when it comes down to it, when addressing like air ops, for example, you have this bungee and active retention system on your mags to keep everything in place, whether you're jumping or heloing into an objective or mission set. Maritime is going to be more of like, hey, maybe you don't want to wear body armor because in the event you fall off the boat, that body armor makes you sink to the bottom of the sea. That's kind of an extreme example, but it's an example nonetheless. So in conjunction with that, when it comes to utilizing the system without body armor and using it as a standalone system, you have your recon and surveillance side. So if you're a sniper and you need to ditch that body armor so that way you can run your ghillie and you can move over terrain, you have the ability to utilize this system as a standalone system underneath your ghillie suit and all that, and run that system as need be. So the other side of the spectrum is when training and going through that crawl, walk, run phase. When you're going through training, you can set this up and utilize it as a standalone system, get as many reps in as possible so that you're understanding what's going on as far as the tactics that you're practicing and you're training on, and then you add your body armor and progress through that training pyramid, you could say, that way as well. So I'm a huge advocate for just running slick and running streamlined systems like this and getting as many reps in as possible, and then utilizing body armor at the end. It's kind of like the 80% 20% rule that I've read about actually just recently because of an injury that I sustained to my back, where you want to do more 80% of like lower rate and then 20% higher rate. So that's more of like physical therapy stuff that I was working through, but it's an example that can be applied to this as well. So so that's kind of the spectrum when it comes to talking about your mission set and your operational environment. Definitely think MET-TC, mission enemy time, terrain, troops, and then civilian considerations when putting all this together, because that will help you understand how you can set up your equipment and how those factors will dictate to you how you need to set up your equipment as well. So and a couple of other examples that are out there, and I think I addressed it, may have addressed it in the countless times I've refilmed this, but jungle environments where you have very hot and humid environments and the terrain is very intense, you may not want to wear body armor because of how intense the terrain is. So that's something to take into consideration, as well as the heat and the humidity. I mean, you're sweating enough and you're just by moving around that you can get dehydrated and heat cap pretty quick in those type of environments. So mountainous environments are another example of that, where you're moving up and down and you may need to fluctuate and adjust your kit based off of the environment that you're moving in. So with that said, I'll talk more of the duty position piece now though. So this setup is actually kind of set up to cross in between multiple positions. So you have leadership positions, riflemen, and then RTOs. So this setup can address a lot of that. The leadership position, depending on what position you are, if you're a platoon leader or if you're a platoon sergeant or you're a squad leader or team leader, you may need 1 or 2 radios. So you can pull some of these pouches and then put an additional radio pouch on there. Now, I'm just using the 2 magazine pouch for your radio stuff on this setup. So like I said, if you're a radio man or a rifleman, let's say your leader goes down, whether there's a team leader, squad leader, he goes down and you're the next guy in line to take up that leadership position. You grab his radio, put it in your kit, and now you're taking up that leadership role, and you're able to communicate and deal with that medical situation right there, and then continue mission once that's been taken care of. So you can see how this can fluctuate from one position to the next. Now when it comes to RTOs, usually the guys running the radio equipment are going to have like a 117 Golf or 117 Fox, and they're going to have to back mount that, whether it's in a backpack or it's in a zip-on panel that they're throwing on the back of their plate carrier or IOTV. So that's something to consider for a specific role and duty position. They may have a radio on the front of their kit for internal comms, and then they have a radio on their back for external comms and being able to communicate with command and control or headquarters. So take that into consideration, but this is an example of how you can put all that together where it does crossover. Now when it comes to Grenadier, or you need other specific mission essential equipment for your loadout, if you're a Grenadier and you need to run 40 millimeter rounds instead of running these mag pouches, you can run your 40 millimeter pouches for the rounds for your 320 or 203 if you still have that. And then in addition to that, if you're in a leadership role and you're not running 40 millimeter system, you can run smoke to be able to signal with that. And I'll get into some of that a little bit more when we get into those specific pieces for that whole shoot, move, communicate, and medicate portion. But this is an example of how you can shift and adjust your kit to be able to address multiple mission requirements and duty position requirements. So with that said, I'm going to jump into and transition over to the piece for the shoot, move, communicate, and medicate portion, so that way you can see how this entire kit is set up and what's going on. So first and foremost, you have the shoot piece, so ammo. I'll focus primarily on M4 mags. So you have 4 M4 mags up front, and then I know the Army standard is usually 7 mags. You can run 2 more mags in one of these pouches, or in this pouch right here if you're not running a radio. But you can run 2 more mags right here, and then you have these 2 extra pouches for any type of special equipment or equipment that you want to take out on mission, if it's not something that you're seeing here in front of you. So you have the ability to utilize these Blue Force Gear 10-speed pouches for mags and for special equipment. Now, it's my personal preference to run extra mags on my belt or on the back of my plate carrier, but some people, they don't like that, and they prefer to just run everything up front. I would just caution against utilizing pouches where you start getting the accordion effect, where you have pouches on top of pouches and then everything starts to fold out and pull off of the plate carrier or off of your tap system. I really like this because it's nice and streamlined. It keeps the kit nice and clean, and I mean, kit is one of the biggest things that people are going to take the first impression off of when they meet you and they start interacting and training with you. So take that into consideration. This gives you a lot of adaptability for your mission set and for your duty position. So that's the ammo piece or the shoot piece. The next piece is your movement piece, and primarily your land navigation piece. So as a leader, being able to run land navigation equipment is going to be important, because you may be the point man, or you may delegate down to somebody else in the platoon to be the point man, but you still need to keep track of where you guys are on the map for that mission set. So 2 is 1, 1 is none. You have your paper maps and your map case, and then you have your GPS. So pens, pencils, map markers, protractors, the map case, and your maps all going together in this, and you just slide that right into the right hand pocket, the zipper pocket on your tap system. And then if you want, and you have ranger beads, you have the ability to run those in there as well. So that's going to be the first part of your nav piece or your movement piece. The other side of the movement piece is setting this up so that way it enables you to have full range of motion and not be limited in your range of motion, or not have this kit inhibit your range of motion. That is the other side of it. But that is a really important side of it and a huge part, but it's one of those things that you're gonna have to go out onto the range, you're gonna have to go shoot, you're gonna have to go train to validate your kit to be able to determine whether or not you need to adjust and change things for that individual movement piece and how your body is going to handle moving with this system. But for the nav piece, you have your maps and protractors in the back, and then you have your compass and GPS in the front. So I like putting this compass in one of those extra mag pouches. Yeah, you can run your extra mags in these pouches, but I prefer running 4 up front and then offsetting those other mags elsewhere. Because if you're getting in a gunfight and it's way more than 4 mags, that's a really bad situation. So, but like I said, carry all those mags that you need as per that kind of Army standard across the board for 7 mags. So you have your compass there, and then your GPS can go right next to it. I would absolutely advise on and err on the side of have paper maps, because if your GPS goes down, or if you have a watch that has a GPS on it, you don't want to find yourself in a position where you can't nav, because you now no longer have the ability to navigate. In conjunction with that, with compasses, if you run a watch with a compass on it, that's awesome. You have 2 compasses, so 2 is 1, 1 is none in that sense. And then usually a GPS, if you're running just a handheld, has a compass on it as well. Or you can do a wrist compass. Any one of those configurations is an option, but I would advise of having 2. In conjunction with that, if you find yourself in any type of an environment or situation where you're close enough to be within that range for hand-to-hand combat, have a knife, because it'll give you the upper hand, and just be ready for what can happen in the event that happens. So that's that movement piece and that maneuver piece as far as how all of this kit goes together. So we have the shoot piece and the move piece taken care of. The next is going to be the communication piece. Now this is going to be more than just radios. It's going to also incorporate having smoke, flares, the little pin flares, signal mirror, and strobe, because those are different ways to be able to communicate and signal to other partner forces or allied forces of what's going on. And then you also have flaming rocks and some of the improvised things that guys can make on their own. So I like having a signal mirror just because you can get a hold of aircraft that way if your radio goes down. And I just like to throw this in the back where eventually we'll put some admin equipment. And then you have your strobe that I like to put in one of these other mag pouches over on the other side. So that way you're addressing all of your communications equipment from this radio pouch like I've talked about before up front. And then you're also addressing the signal piece of that as well. So, and then in conjunction with that, you have this utility pouch or general purpose pouch on the exterior of your kit that will allow you to carry any other equipment that you want, whether it's those pin flares, if you want to throw your signal mirror in there, or if you want to throw any other equipment that you have to be able to provide that signaling, you can. And then if you want to, with that leadership position, or if you don't want to carry extra mags, or you don't need the mag pouch or these 10-speed pouches up there for extra equipment, you can run different smoke grenade pouches up front, so that way you have the ability to do that as well. So that's an option as well. You can buy the triple mag version of this, the single mag version, or the double mag version, and configure it however you see fit. So with that said, that's going to be the communications piece, and then we have the med piece. So with the Brigade standard video that I'm going to link in the description, they put their med kit up front. I personally don't agree with that, just because you have all of this MOLLE to be able to address your mission and everything that's going to be going on during that mission and your duty position. So I would rather use the front of this kit to be able to address the mission and position rather than med, because what you can do is you can take your med kit, put it in a food saver bag like this, or you can take just that bifold internal system that is inside of your med kit, and flip this entire system over and throw your med kit right into this pouch, and you're good to go. And from what I've seen and what I've experienced with a lot of conventional units is they usually say put your med kit on your left hand side. So if med kit is still on your left hand side, you still have the ability to access it with great ease, because you can just unclip one of these, or you can just pull this flap out and pull that med kit right out. So you have the ability to still access your med kit. It's still on your left side, still within the limitations of that SOP or policy that's in place, but you're allowing the use of all of that MOLLE on the front of your system for your mission and for your position. In conjunction with that, you have tourniquets. Now, I know a lot of guys, they'll want to put their tourniquets above or below their med kit. I would suggest putting your tourniquets right on the front of your kit, because if you have them right on the front of the kit, they're front and center. You have both of them, whether you're running soft T's, cats, whatever the case may be. You run one on the bottom of your TAP system or your plate carrier or IOTV, and then you have one that's either on either side, left or right of your belt, buckle or loop, whatever system that you're running. If it's a rigger belt, that rigger point, that's right there. So I usually run them right on the right side, because your connections for your rigger points are on the left-hand side of your belt. So with that said, you can set up both of your tourniquets front and center on your kit. They're streamlined. You really don't even notice that they're there, but when you need them for an extremity wound, either hand can access them, and you're applying that tourniquet and providing self-aid if need be. And then in the event that you've been incapacitated, if a guy comes up to provide buddy aid to you, he has the ability to just look at the center of your kit, grab your tourniquets, and then apply that tourniquet where it needs to be applied. A lot of guys that I've worked with like having one cat and then one soft T tourniquet, because the soft T tourniquet is really good for leg wounds and applying really good pressure to those arteries in the legs, and then your cat is really good for self-aid for applying to arms when you only have the ability to use one hand. So take that into consideration when setting up your tourniquets. I don't like putting them in the little pouches that they come with, just because it's one extra thing you have to pull off to be able to access your tourniquet. It's easier just to hair tie this to the bottom of your kit and be good to go. In conjunction with that, hair ties are better than rubber bands, because they'll last with the weather a lot better. So they'll last longer in intense weather environments. So before I get into some of the special equipment or mission essential equipment, we'll talk the center pouch right here. So what I like to do is I like to have a map case or just a waterproof case, whatever the case may be, and you put your pens, pencils, paper, and all that in there. You slide it right into here, and then that way everything on its back side is nice and flat, and it's not going to push your kit off of your IOTV or your plate carrier, depending on what system that you're running. And then in conjunction with that, ear probe, because that's now a sensitive item for a lot of people, or almost everybody in the Army. So next we have some special or specific equipment. The first being multi-tool. A multi-tool is not if, but when you need it. I can't emphasize that enough. I can't tell you how many times I've seen dudes need it and they don't have it. So I would highly advise that you have a multi-tool on your kit at all times. The next being PVS-14s. I know a lot of the military is still utilizing the PVS-14. I would use the Tactical Medical Solutions soft T tourniquet pouch. This thing is the perfect size to be able to run your PVS-14 and have a small and streamlined pouch on your kit that doesn't get in the way of anything, that you can store your PVS-14 in there. And then last but not least, general purpose pouches or specific pouches. I know privates usually don't get frags, but you have the ability to run frags if you want in this area. You can run general purpose pouch like this 5x5 from Tier Tactical, or you can go with something like a 5x9. So it gives you more space to be able to store more equipment if you want something that's just an open pouch. But this can be this space right here can be addressed for all of those types of pouches and all of those mission essential pieces of equipment. Whether you're running special equipment because your MOS dictates you need that, or you just have specific equipment for your mission. In addition to that, batteries. Have batteries for everything that you are running that's an electronic system, as well as a headlamp. A headlamp is a good thing to have, so you can run that in here as well. So just a couple of examples of some extra equipment that you can run and be able to have on your kit and on your person at all times, so that way you're ready for anything that the mission might throw at you. A couple of other things that you can just kind of throw off. Chem lights are always a good thing to have. I would have numerous chem lights for different scenarios. Chem lights are usually used for marking, so it's a good thing to have on your kit. Whether you just D-ring them off the bottom of your TAP system or you put them on your belt, it's entirely up to you, but I would advise having chem lights as well. So with that said, I really don't have anything else to add to this setup and this kit when it comes to the setup of the TAP system. So if you have any questions, please feel free and leave a comment. We'll answer any questions that you have. and clarify anything if anything isn't clear. And then like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.